My name's Nyesha McCauley.
I'm Nyesha McCauley, and
Well,
you're watching AccessTV.org. Hello, I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you are tuned in, locked in to politics and communications today. We are exploring Stan McCauley's 6-point plan, realigning city priorities. And we're here today to dive into another point in that plan. And this point actually is right up his wheelhouse. So it should be a good conversation today. We're going to talk about communications and why that's important in realigning city priorities. So welcome to Politics and Stan. How you doing today?
I'm doing very good. I trust you're doing that as well.
Yeah. No, it's a good day. It's a good day.
It's a good day.
It is a good day.
It's a good day.
All right. So this Politics and series is really focused in on the 6-point plan that you have proposed to the city of Hartford as necessary for the city. And in the series, we are going through each of the different points in the plan and breaking them down. And so today we're going to look at communication. So why is communications important to realign? Like, what's necessary? Why is this a campaign issue or a city priority or something that's necessary as you see it for the city?
Well, communication is key. I mean, everything really revolves or centers around communication. It's the foundation. And so if you don't have good communication within an organization, things tend to be siloed. If you don't have communication with organization to who the organization serves, then once again, we have silos. So it's part of the silo busting, if you will, which is actually one of our priorities. But if we're going to communicate, and realign our priorities to people, that communication is key. So let me bring that up on the screen real quick here. And this, our second priority, communications. And by the way, you can find this at McCauleyformayor.com. McCauleyformayor.com/plan. And, effective communication is key to driving change and progress in our communities. I see communication as a critical factor in building trust with the community and bringing everyone along in our effort for growth. With so much information bombarding us in this digital age, the city of Hartford needs to communicate. Let's bring that up a little bit. There we go. Needs to communicate to being. Let me start that.
Committed.
You think I read much?
City of Hartford needs to be committed.
Right there's that literacy piece there. No, it's real tiny on my screen. It's hard to see. Let me start over. Take two. All right. Reliable source of information for their constituents. These things need to be communicated. So my goal is to make city news and update easily to be understood, and opening up access to all those needed avenues. We've got a lot of different vehicles to communicate things to our residents that are either not utilized or underutilized, chief of which is our public access station. My understanding is there's a lot of talk about moving that public access station, by the way, downtown to the library, which is not a bad idea. Another thing is the internet. Now, the city has a web page, but the things I see most on there is, what the mayor's doing. And to me, it's not about what the mayor's doing. It's about what the city should be doing. So when we talk about communicating, we're not talking about communicating what I, as the mayor, want to do. It's bringing you into City Hall, bringing City Hall out to you, so that you're understanding what your Parks and Recreation Department is doing. You're understanding what your Health Department is doing, what the Police Department is doing, the Fire Department, Economic and Community Development, all the departments, Public Works, all of the departments that are essential to making the city work are on a mission to serve the residents. So what do the residents know about these departments? What do they know about the Registrar of Voters, or the Town Clerk's Department, or financing, or procurement, or as we were talking about in Priority 1, Metro Hartford Information Services. All of these things need to be communicated to our residents, particularly when you start talking about economic development and bringing people into having a broader understanding. And I'll take I'll give you one example before we start to go into those and break it down a little bit. We have a lot of buildings downtown, office buildings. A lot of those office buildings are, how shall we say, less used than they used to be. We won't say that they're empty, but they're heading toward a time and a place of being empty. After the pandemic, a lot of people did not return to work. So there's a lot of conversion, if you will, happening downtown, where a lot of those buildings are being turned into apartments. Now, here's the problem. And it's not just in Hartford, it's across the country. And a lot of, particularly in dense urban areas where there's a lot of downtown corporate type buildings. Now, the people who own these buildings pay taxes to the city. They're a major contributor to our grand list. The grand list is the list of taxable properties and taxable entities that contribute toward our tax base. Break it down, keep it as simple as I can. If those buildings go offline, that means those tax dollars are not coming to the city. So let's say you have a building like 777. It used to be the bank, and it used to be corporate office buildings and stuff like that. If there are no tenants in the building, corporate tenants, then the people who own the building can't collect the money they need in order to pay their mortgages and pay their debts and ultimately pay taxes to the city. So they foreclose and the building goes offline. So if you can't bring tenants into the building, corporate tenants, perhaps you can bring residential tenants. So that means you have to rehab or restructure or reformulate, who's going to be in that building. So if there's tenants in the building, what kind of rent brings the kind of money or revenue to the owner of the building that is compatible with a corporate client like a UTC or a law firm? Unfortunately, those tenants are going to be big dollar tenants, luxury apartments, who can afford that kind of rent. So when people hear, wow, they're putting money downtown, that is true, but think of what that money downtown's going for and how it offsets the alternative. If these things were communicated, even just like I did in a couple of minutes, and I'm being as basic as you could possibly be, but if Economic and Community Development as a department was talking about this, and we talked about Freeman's what's the development, not Metro Hartford Alliance. I'm trying to think of the economic development outfit that develops here, that the mayor's a part of, and I'm just having a mental lockjaw here.
I'm not sure
All right.
which organization.
There's an article about them on the front page of the Current this morning with the bell over on Constitution Plaza. Point I'm making is that there is a group that is in the process of redeveloping downtown. They lend money to all kinds of
CRDA.
CRDA, yeah.
Okay.
Capital Region Development Authority. So that organization, if you brought them in and its executive director, members of their board to talk about what that vision is for Hartford, then residents in other parts of the city would have an understanding of what's going on. And so I go into that long-winded example to talk about the absolute need for communication. Because if you don't know a thing, then you don't know a thing. And ignorance is not a great place to start off. So we have to break down those walls of ignorance. And that's done through a solid communication plan. And without a solid communication plan, you cannot realign Hartford's priorities.
And that's interesting that you went into that example, because it made me think about the way communication works within an organization, a business or a nonprofit organization. And what typically happens in one of those areas is communications is an afterthought for a lot of people, where they run the program, they run and do and build the thing that they are doing. So whether it's a service or a product, they focus in on the service or the product, and they don't think about communicating it out to anybody until the last day. And then they want to bring in the communications to make a flyer or build the social media content for it. And, but the challenge is always, communications needed to be a part of the thinking as you were building it.
Absolutely.
Not as an afterthought. And you see this, I know, all the time, when you get a phone call and someone is requesting video service for a program that's happening in like an hour because they hadn't thought about how are we going to share this with anyone until after. And that really diminishes the potential of that program at that point. It is no longer, it can no longer have the kind of impact, the full impact that it could have had if you were brought in from the inception of the thing. So I'm just adding that in because that made me think about that.
It's very important. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because it caused me to think. I have a friend of mine. He's not a client, but a friend of mine. He's a major record producer. And they're getting ready to go in this studio. In fact, they've been in the studio. I'm really not at liberty to talk in a lot of detail about the project, but I've been to every single online meeting that they've had, and I've been in the studio once. And so there's going to be another opportunity for them to do some recording, but the meetings have been over a year, because it takes time to put these things together. Well, I'm not recording nothing. I'm not singing. I'm not playing anything. But as somebody who's going to be responsible or part of capturing what's going on, you need to be an integral part of the conversation that's happening, because there's so many little things that you have to hear, because that's part of what you're communicating. You can't come in at the last minute and get what's going on. You can report on what's happening, but there's a difference between reporting what's happening and communicating what's happening. Think of it like you get on the bus, and the bus has been driving through the city for an hour, and you jump on and try and get into the conversation. Well, there's been a whole hour of conversation that you miss. And so if you have a city that's working in silos, every department is disconnected from one another. They're not communicating with each other. They're barely communicating within the department. Well, how can you expect it to be functional and run smoothly? How can you expect it to communicate with the citizens and the constituents that it serves? So when people don't know stuff, they try to act like they do. That's not good. When they are misunderstanding, miscommunicating, you have devastating consequences. So I can't overstate the importance of communication, and it has to be an integral part. And the communications team in the city needs to be part of the dynamic discussions that are happening in departments, not a call to respond to either a crisis or when we're ready to publish something, you come in and make it look good. All right, it has to be an integral part. A lot of people want to save money, and communications is usually the first ones to suffer.
That's absolutely correct, which is why, I see it as such a travesty in organizations that don't have their communications built out and sitting at the administrative or executive level within the organization, because it is usually the first to go, but it's us.
Just like your legal team is there with you,
right?
The communications team needs to be there.
Right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned interdepartment communications. Just to dive into that a little bit more, to put a finer point on it, I hear it from residents as a source of frustration when you arrive at a city department and are told that, really what ultimately happens is the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And it's kind of like, aren't you all in the same building together? Aren't you all like talking to one another? Isn't there a way in which this information could be transferred without the individual being responsible for that transference of information?
Well, that is an ongoing, how shall we say? I hear the same thing. There's a lament that, well, we didn't know about this, or, someone needs to tell us, or they need better ways to communicate these things. Let me put this up on the screen. Maybe we could address that through this here. One of the things I want to do is establish system support and open a consistent, a transparent stream of communications. So we'll institute stronger systems that raise the level of importance for communications between all city departments, what we just got finished talking about, making way for more coordination and consistency of services, connecting with neighboring municipalities as well as with state, federal government entities will be prioritized. Let's drop down a little bit more. Advance a culture of open and honest communications, weekly live broadcasts, open forum Q&A with the mayor. I'm going to read the third one because there's only 3 here, and I think there's only 4. Yeah, there are only 4 of these priorities. So let me just do the next one here. Utilize deeper communication pathways and partners. And this, I think, kind of more addresses what you just brought up. To inform the community of key initiatives and issues, we utilize various methods for disseminating information using neighborhood newspapers like the Northern Agent, all of the Spanish-speaking press, papers like the Hartford News, other papers. Public access television, we talked a little bit about that. There's 2 channels, Channel 96 and Channel 95, that are used specifically for education and government access. WQTQ, which is a radio station, the license of that radio station is really held by the city / Board of Education. So it's really a powerful tool that can be better utilized than it is to disseminate critical information to our residents. Of course, social media, YouTube, text messaging, and emails. There really is, it's a kind of a fine line between. It's a fine line between the constituent or the resident and their desire to know and the city's making information available. If there was one place people could go, or 4 places that were consistently reliable, or that could be relied on consistently as a place you could go to. So you could go to WQTQ and hear at 10 a.m. the city report, where from 10 a.m. to 10:30 you'd hear a list of what's going on in the city, what meetings are being held in the city. You could get a little listing of that in the Hartford News or in the Northern Agent, in the Spanish-speaking newspapers, or in any of the other language newspapers that serve communities. A weekly bulletin that could go out to the editors of those papers. And then it becomes up to them whether or not they want to print it. Clearly, the city website, upcoming events and meetings, that should be when you go to the website, first thing on top, upcoming events and meetings. So you go there and you can get a listing of those kinds of things. But I have a theory, and I mean, I'm just keeping it 100. I have a theory that, if you want to know something, you're going to look for it. Because I have discussion with friends who are very active in the community, who are always complaining that who knew about this? And my pushback to that is, well, you know. Yeah, but I had to go and ask someone. But that's because you want to know. I'm not so sure if it's a good use of resources in terms of staff time and, fiscal resources to just plow information out there about every little detail, every little thing that people really don't want to know about. So where is that line between desire to know, need to know, and the resources it takes to make said information available? And so I think there has to be maybe a broader conversation as to what level of information should be available for individuals to have ready access to. I'm a big transparency guy, but you would lose your mind just putting information out.
True. I would offer, as in that conversation, like having that conversation, is that's where the strategic part, like when people say strategic communications, the strategic part means you are thoughtful about what you're communicating, and it has a purpose and a goal. It's not just information for information's sake. It's doing something to advance the cause. So it's strategic. You have a strategy. And I would offer communications in the way in which you're describing it is necessary when it's a part of community progress.
All right. And you, just a footnote, do communications for a living. I mean, that's what you do. You're a director of communications for organizations.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm offering my expert opinion.
Right, because the mayor, the mayor is not an expert in everything. I want things to work well, but this is why you have all these employees that work at the city, right? Because they're actually experts at what they do. The mayor is not, but he should be a good administrator of those experts. But continue.
So if the purpose and the goal or the outcome or the impact is to have the community along with you on community development or a neighborhood initiative, it is imperative that the community is brought into that conversation. And so it's not just information, it is purposeful.
Okay, so part of what I read, and once again, this is all found at McCauleyforMayor.com/plan, was a weekly telecast, a live telecast, where the mayor would answer questions and answers. But I also would like to have a series of programs, something that airs every day. There'd be the question and answer from the mayor, somewhat similar to the prime minister's questions and answers that they have in Parliament. For those of you that watch the British prime minister deliver hard-hitting questions, that's another subject for another day. But I would like to have a program that airs something every weekday, where you're not only hearing from department heads, but also communities. Like, the NRZs, Hartford Next, okay? And the NRZs that serve the community, whether it's Northeast, whether it's Siscon, whether it's, Upper Albany, Blue Hills. I'm going to get in trouble now. Behind the Rocks, all of them, you all know who you are. So I don't want to leave anyone out. However, imagine if they have an idea that they want to communicate to the entire city, so they would come and be able to take advantage of that. They wouldn't have to produce the show on their own. They would just come in, and that program would be, you know, Hartford Speaks or whatever the case is, where people come on. You know, organizations like Terry Starks and Duffy with Hartford Proud come and talk a little bit about their program and an announcement that they may have. You know, the city, there's so much going on in the city, but once again, they're siloed. And if you're going to talk about breaking these silos, which is our third priority, working outside silos, you have to have a strong communications platform and base. The city has them. They're just not utilized the way they should.
All right. So, you know, I think you've articulated the importance of communications being a city priority, but also realigning it in order to progress and advance the city of Hartford. I think, and as you stated, like all this plan is available on the website right now, McCauleyforMayor.com. One thing that is not on this plan that I'm going to throw at you cold for for your pondering is other mechanisms for relaying this information, like use of technology, like electronic screens or kiosks. You know, there's some cities that you travel to and information is readily available at the bus stop or at, you know, in City Hall itself as a physical manifestation, if you will, but using technology and like billboards and things like that. I'm just curious as how you're processing that.
I think that's a great idea, and I think that it's something that Hartford should have, let alone, never mind, reconsider. There are plenty of places where you can put these kiosks or these electronic screens, you know, like the televisions, you know, flat screen TVs, whether they're, you know, landscape or portrait. But, you know, you could put them in windows. Like, say, let's take Broad Street, for instance. Rather than having them actually on the street, they can be inside the establishment behind the window, the glass, which would give them an added life expectancy, so they're not just out there on the street for someone to hit with a baseball bat or something like that, throw bricks at. And so you'd have these strategically placed throughout the city, and all kinds of information can be shared. This is not a difficult lift because the technology is so readily available. And you can target each of those screens with, you know, all kinds of information. They could be different. It could be different information. They could all share the same information. There should be these screens should be at the at Union Station. They should be at the bus stop. They should absolutely be up at the airport. As people know, I'm a big fan of keeping the airport open down here at Brainerd Field. That information should be at Brainerd Field as that airport becomes more present and there are more things that are happening there. There'll be more traffic coming through there. So people coming to the city. However, at the I mentioned train station, bus station. Well, they're using the same facility, but within inside Duncan Park, over at the truck stop, all throughout the city. I think that's a great idea and a great way for people to get information in real time about the city, particularly people who are visiting the city. Inside places like the museum, Science Museum, over Mark Twain, Harry Beecher Stowe. These places can be all over.
All right.
The main thoroughfares, Albany Avenue, Franklin Avenue.
Sounds good.
Maple
Sounds
Avenue.
good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Yeah, check out Path to Impact, J. Stan McCauley's citywide priority realignment needed to move Hartford forward. Why don't we take a short break?
Okay.
And come back and finish up on your communication priority.
Every bad political decision is made by a politician elected to office. So if you think your vote doesn't matter, just remember this. There are people sitting with politicians in a back room making deals about your future, making policies about your children, making decisions about your neighborhood. To them, you are just a vote. You are not their cause. You are just a vote. Elections have consequences, and if you don't vote, you are actually voting to keep these people in power to work against you. Now more than ever, you need to make your vote count. It's time to clear the air and vote for a mayor that is unbought, unbossed, trusted, and accountable to you, the constituent. My name is J. Stan McCauley, and I am an independent thinker, and I approve this message. I'm asking you for your vote for mayor of the city of Hartford. For more information, visit McCauleyformayor.com. Have the courage to vote your conscience and vote for the name you trust and know. Vote J. Stan McCauley for mayor.
All right, welcome to Politics and I'm Nyesha McCauley. We are diving in, deep dive into J. Stan McCauley's Path to Impact, citywide realignment to move Hartford forward. And we've been talking about communications and why communication itself, in and of itself, is a priority, and not only a priority, but also necessary in order to really have the kind of impact that you are looking to see, Mr. J. Stan McCauley, as mayor in the city of Hartford. So if you watching would like more information about this particular topic and the overall path to impact, the plan, the vision, what J. Stan is bringing to the table, please go and visit McCauleyformayor.com and you will find it there. But we're talking about it right here, and we welcome your comments, your feedback as you are hearing more about these citywide priority realignment and again, why that's necessary. So just in wrapping up this conversation around communications, I think we covered largely the majority of the points that as you see them necessary in order to really make any changes. So what's not here as you're talking about communications, though, is this is more granular as far as like, how do you see staffing up in order to make all the things that you just talked about? Like, if you're going to have department heads talking about what they're doing, if you're going to be or if you're going to have programming on QTQ or any of the things that we just finished talking about, what would that look like within City Hall?
That's a good question. Well, obviously you have a director of communications. And
I'm not looking for a job.
No.
I'm not looking for a job. We don't do that. It won't be me, Hartford.
They have a word for that.
It won't be me, Hartford. Don't worry.
They can talk about like nepotism.
That's
I got a friend of a friend that I need you to work with. No. No. There's obviously a director of communications and that staff. There have been, in the past, Hartford had a pretty robust communication staff. I remember them, and they did a great job. They covered all kinds of things throughout the city, parks and recreation. Different departments came on, fire department, police department. I remember that time. So you'd have one person who's responsible for communications overall throughout the city, and then they would be a deputy communications director and a small staff, someone that can do the social media, television, production team, and they need the equipment to be able to do that. So they would have the resources necessary, and it would be a line item in the budget. I guess maybe in the mayor's office, probably in the mayor's office. In the past, I know that the funding for said operations, one time it came out of the city council's budget, another time it came out of the mayor's budget. I don't know. It would probably be out of the mayor's department. Yeah. And staff would probably consist of someone to do the on-air presence. And I'd have between 2 or 3 people who made sure that they were part of that production staff, because there's a lot of work in setting up the opportunities to have these conversations with department heads and staff, because these aren't professional communicators. Their professions are, in the area of expertise, are the jobs that they do. So the programs have to be produced. You don't just set somebody in front of the camera. And people need to be, a little bit of coaching. And obviously, if you are a department head and you're disseminating information that is relevant to the city, there are legal ramifications to what they say and are accountable for, and what the city has liability exposure to. So, it does need to be staffed up. I'd say 5 or 6 people. Now, I know a lot of people, 5 or 6 people, $500,000 budget, where are we going with this? But you got to look at the downside of what happens because of the lack of communication. It's penny wise, pound foolish, as are lots of things that are done in the city. And those things have to stop. People have to value the service that's being provided. And quite frankly, if we are more fiscally responsible in terms of how we spend the money and what we spend the money on, and the money that comes into the city is directed in the way that it should be, there's more than enough to do the job that we want to do with communications. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. I think, being transparent it's important for people to understand how all of this would work.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a flash in the pan type of feel good. It actually
campaign rhetoric,
right?
Fluff,
right?
No. This is a very well thought out plan,
and possible. That's the other piece. Like, it is possible to do every single element in this.
Absolutely.
In this plan.
Right.
Yeah.
And the plan that you will see online or in our Path to Impact, in the little insert that appeared in the paper, that's like an executive summary of the actual plan. So I mean, the plan is detailed and it goes deep. But as my wife always tells me, people don't want to hear the recipe. They just would like to have the brownie. Give them the brownie and stop giving them the recipe to the brownie. And that's a communications little note. Keep it simple and short.
Like this show. So I think we're done with communications as the second priority in your path to impact. So before we go, though, I do always want to give you room to offer anything that we did not get to. Did we leave something on the table in this communications piece?
I don't think so. I think we I think we gave them brownie and a recipe.
Okay. All right. Well, keep it locked on accesstv.org on all your social media feeds. You'll find us there talking and communicating. It is the second priority in J. Stan McCauley's path to impact. If you want to have an impact, if you want to make a difference, Hartford, your chance to do that is Tuesday, November 7th, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. The polls will be open. You'll find J. Stan McCauley on 1H for One Hartford, and that is the vision and the path forward. So that's your job out there, Hartford. So, yeah. We'll be back here tomorrow with priority number 3. So keep it locked, keep watching, and keep listening, and keep talking back to us, because we're definitely listening to you. So until next time, be well.
Hey, Hartford, Connecticut. I'm talking to you. We got to get out and vote. Vote for Stan McCauley. It's our time. We gotta rise up and take it back. Vote for Stan McCauley.
Vote for Stan. You gotta vote for Stan McCauley. Vote for Stan. Vote for Stan. Oh yeah.
It's more than politics than just what your social covers. And it ain't somewhere written down in bold letters. Don't just take my word for it, do your research. Think of your future, look at your bigger picture. Suit and tie, clean up, unity for the righteous. Plotting on action, hands on access. With a light source vision, door to door knocking. Guerrilla style marketing, brainstorm as a collective. Real neighborhood suggestions. Only we know what it is where we living. To make real life decisions. Move on facts, make a manifest back.
You gotta vote for Stan McCauley. Vote for Stan. Vote for Stan. Vote for Stan. Oh yeah. Look at your city. Stop. Take a look around. Is opportunity flow into your house? Are you working? Wait, can you save some money? And is your neighborhood safe? Or is it a homicide every night?
Senior. Many of you may know me as the two-time welterweight champion of the world. I'm here to tell you that Democrat J. Stan McCauley, as our next mayor, will fight for you until the last bell. Help me throw a knockout punch. Go out and vote for Stan the Man.
My name's J. Stan McCauley, and I approve this message.